The letter arrived on a wind that smelled of dust and iron, sliding halfway under the door as if it were ashamed to be seen. Caleb Hart found it there when he came in from mending the south fence, his hands cracked and bleeding from wire, his shoulders bowed by years of quiet work no one noticed. He stared at the envelope for a long moment before bending to pick it up. The handwriting was neat, careful, feminine. He had read and reread the same careful hand for months now, tracing the loops of the letters like they might lead him somewhere warmer. He did not open it right away. Outside, the land stretched thin and tired, a long sweep of winter yellow grass and stubborn sage. The ranch had belonged to his father and his father before him, but Caleb had been the one to watch it shrink, not in acres but in spirit. Neighbors moved on. Towns emptied. The railroad cut past without stopping. The nights grew louder with silence. He ate alone, slept alone, spoke to horses more than people. When he finally wrote to the matrimonial agency in St. Louis, it was not desperation that moved his pen, he told himself. It was practicality. A ranch needed two hands. A life needed a witness. He slit the envelope and read the final line twice. "I will arrive on the Tuesday wagon. I hope you are not disappointed." Caleb folded the letter and set it on the table like something fragile. He did not consider disappointment. He considered the sound of another person breathing in the house. He considered the possibility of laughter, echoing off the walls his mother had once scrubbed until they shone. He considered a woman small enough to fit the dresses in the trunk. He had purchased in town pastel cottons he could barely look at without blushing. Tuesday came wearing a sky the color of pewter. The wagon arrived at noon, its wheels groaning, its horses steaming in the cold. A handful of townsfolk gathered at the depot to see the spectacle. Mail-order brides were rare enough to be interesting, and Caleb Hart was quiet enough to be pitied. He stood at the edge of the platform, hat in his hands, rehearsing words he did not know how to say aloud. When the wagon stopped, a man jumped down and opened the door. A child appeared first, then an old woman clutching a parcel. Then she stepped down. She was tall, broad-shouldered, her coat strained at the seams, patched and repatched, pulled tight across a chest that suggested a life of labor rather than lace. Her boots were scuffed, her hands bare and red from cold. She wore no bonnet, only a scarf tied back to keep her dark hair from her eyes. Those eyes swept the platform, not timid, not searching but assessing, as if measuring the land itself. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "That can't be her. Is she lost?" Caleb felt the ground tilt, his rehearsed words scattered like birds. He knew the agency did not promise a particular shape or size, but this was a woman who looked like she could lift a feed sack with one hand and not apologize for it. She did not look like someone who needed saving. She looked like someone who would survive him. She met his gaze and did not look away. "You're Caleb Hart," she said, her voice low, steady, unembarrassed by the stares. "I'm Miriam Cole." The name struck him with recognition and confusion all at once. Miriam Cole, the careful handwriting, the letters that spoke of gardens and seasons and patience. He had imagined her smaller, softer, fragile in the way the world allowed women to be. He had not imagined the weight of her presence, the way the air seemed to shift around her. "Ah, yes," he managed. "I'm Caleb." She nodded once, then turned back to the wagon. "I've got a trunk." It took both of them to lift it down. It was heavier than he expected. He noticed then the way her muscles moved under her coat, the economy of her motion. He noticed the way the crowd's curiosity curdled into something sharper, judgment, amusement, disdain. He heard someone laugh. Miriam heard it too. She did not flinch. They rode to the ranch in silence, the wagon rocking over rutted ground. Caleb tried to speak twice and failed. Miriam watched the land roll past, her expression unreadable. When they reached the house, she climbed down and stood for a long moment, looking at the weathered boards, the sagging porch, the land beyond. "This is it," Caleb said unnecessarily. She turned to him. "It's bigger than I thought. I hope that's not—" "It's good," she said, and he stopped. Inside, the house smelled of wood smoke and old dust. He showed her the kitchen, the bedroom he had prepared, the trunk at the foot of the bed. She touched the quilt, her fingers lingering on the stitching. "My mother used to sew," she said softly. "When there was time." Caleb nodded. He did not know what to do with the ache that bloomed in his chest. They ate stew in silence that night. He noticed how she ate, slow, deliberate, grateful. When he offered more, she smiled, a small thing that transformed her face. "Thank you," she said. "I've worked farms. I can pull my weight. I didn't—" He stopped himself. "I know." That night, Caleb lay awake listening to the house breathe. He wondered what town would say. He wondered what he had done. He wondered for the first time in years if he was not alone. The town wasted no time. By the end of the week, the whispers had grown bold. Men lingered too long at the general store. Women pressed their mouths thin when Miriam passed. Someone called her the ox. Someone else suggested Caleb had been cheated. When Miriam walked into church the following Sunday, heads turned in unison, and the pew beside Caleb remained conspicuously empty. Miriam did not bow her head. She sat straight-backed, hands folded, eyes forward. When the hymn rose, she sang, not loudly, but with a steadiness that carried. Caleb felt something settle inside him, a stone finding its place. At the ranch, she proved herself without asking permission. She rose before dawn, hauled water, learned the rhythms of the land with the speed that startled him. She could mend fence, break ice, and calm a skittish mare with a voice that never rushed. When a storm tore through the north pasture, she was there beside him, shoulder to shoulder, hands numb, laughter sharp as the wind. "You don't have to," he began once. She wiped her brow. "I do," she said simply. "This is my home." The word "my" echoed. It was the drought that revealed the fault lines beneath their uneasy peace. The creek dried to a trickle. Grass browned. Cattle grew thin. The bank sent letters that grew heavier with threat. Caleb stared at numbers that did not add up, nights stretching long and cruel. He did not speak of it. He had learned the shape of silence too well. Miriam noticed anyway. "You're not sleeping," she said one morning, handing him coffee. "I'm fine." She did not argue. She waited. That evening, she brought out her trunk and set it between them. She opened it and lifted out a stack of papers, maps, ledgers, careful notes written in the same neat hand he knew so well. "My father lost our farm when I was 16, she said. "I learned how not to." She laid the maps out. She talked of rotation, of saving water, of selling calves early and planting hardier seed. She talked of a future that did not pretend the land owed them anything. Caleb listened. When the bankman came, it was Miriam who met him at the door. She did not raise her voice. She did not smile. She spoke with clarity and a strength that did not ask to be believed. The man left with a promise to wait. Word spread again, but differently this time. Some men scoffed. Some women stared. A few asked questions. When the river flooded in spring, it was Miriam who organized help, who lifted beams and cleared debris, who cooked for families left sodden and shaking. When a child fell ill, it was Miriam who sat through the night, cool cloth and steady presence. People began to nod when she passed, then to greet her, then to ask her opinion. Caleb watched from the edges, a mixture of pride and something like fear twisting in him. He had waited for a bride. He had not expected a force. The night the truth broke open came with lightning. They were mending tack when thunder cracked the sky. The horses spooked, one breaking loose and tearing toward the fence. Miriam ran, her weight and strength turning the animal just enough to save it. When it was done, rain hammering down, she leaned against the post, breath ragged. "You scared me," Caleb said, the words ripped from him. She laughed, breathless. "I'm still here." "No," he said. "I mean, people stare. They talk, they think I'm—" "Cheated?" she finished gently. He swallowed. "Yes." She studied him, rain streaking her face. "Do you?" He thought of the nights less lonely. "The land less fragile?" The house that held laughter again. "No," he said. "I don't." She nodded. "Then we're fine?" He reached for her then, not in a rush, not with a claim, but with an honesty that surprised them both. She took his hand, warm and solid, and for the first time, he felt not saved, but chosen. They married in summer quietly. No lace, no spectacle. The town came anyway. Miriam wore a dress she had altered herself, practical and beautiful in its own way. When she walked down the aisle, there was no laughter. Only respect. Years passed. The ranch endured. Children came, sturdy, laughing, strong in different ways. Miriam taught them to work and to think, to stand their ground and to listen. Caleb learned to speak more, to trust the sound of his own voice. The land healed in patches, stubborn and slow. On a fall afternoon, Miriam stood on the porch watching the fields. Caleb came up behind her, slipped an arm around her waist. She leaned into him, easy as breath. "You know," he said, "they said you weren't what I ordered." She smiled, eyes on the horizon. "I know. But you claimed this place anyway." She turned, meeting his gaze with the same steady assessment she had given the platform years before. "I claimed you," she said. "The ranch came with—" He laughed, the sound full and unafraid. The wind carried it across the land, and the land at last answered back.